In the deeper layers of the human psyche, woman represents far more than a companion, lover, or partner. She stands as a symbol, a mirror, and often an unconscious guide. Within every man, there exists an inner feminine image, an archetype that shapes his perception of women and subtly directs his emotional and spiritual growth. This feminine figure, though inward and intangible, is projected outward onto real women. And it is not the woman who offers herself completely and immediately that activates this archetype most powerfully, but rather the one who pulls back, who resists full exposure, and who remains somewhat veiled. To the male psyche, the woman who holds something back becomes an invitation into mystery. She is not just a person to possess, but a riddle to contemplate, a force that demands inner reckoning. Her refusal to fully give herself, or to be entirely known, awakens the deep psychological need for integration and discovery within the man. She is not withholding love to play games, but rather embodying a form of self-contained wholeness that challenges the man to go beyond his surface impulses. This kind of woman becomes a reflection of his own soul work, though he may not consciously realize it. She triggers not only desire but also longing, the kind that stirs from an ancient place within him, one that remembers the union between masculine and feminine not just as physical but as metaphysical. She is the symbol of the unknown, and the unknown is sacred. A man might chase after many things in life: success, validation, conquest, but the woman who draws him inward rather than outward stands apart. She becomes the doorway to an internal initiation. In contrast, a woman who offers herself entirely, without reservation or boundaries, may be met with gratitude, but she rarely becomes transformative. When a woman holds herself in a certain dignity, when she does not fully yield, when she knows how to remain self-possessed even in love, she taps into a timeless role. She acts not just as a partner in romance, but as a vessel of meaning. Her presence calls a man to question who he is, what he values, and whether he is truly whole or merely seeking completion outside himself. It's important to clarify that this does not mean aloofness, manipulation, or emotional unavailability. Rather, it is about presence with depth. A woman who pulls back is not absent. She is intentional. She knows the power of absence and the necessity of space. She recognizes that being fully seen and fully claimed are not the same. By maintaining some distance, she invites the man to develop sight beyond surface, to engage not just with her body or affection, but with her spirit and essence. This restraint does not shrink her, but elevates her in his unconscious. It causes him to lean forward, to question, to seek. It forces him into inner dialogue. Why does her distance affect him so deeply? Why does her silence echo louder than another's words? Why does her independence stir such unrest? The answers to these questions are not found by analyzing her, but by looking inward, into the structure of his own psyche, his wounds, his projections, and his ideals. In this light, the woman who pulls back becomes a psychological figure rather than merely a romantic one. She represents his longing not only for connection but for depth, for union with that part of himself he cannot articulate. She becomes a spiritual challenge, not a romantic certainty. And this is where her true influence lies. She does not demand pursuit, but evokes it, not by absence, but by essence, She is not a puzzle to be solved, but a reality to be honored. In her, he does not find closure but awakening. She becomes the unknowable thing that teaches him to know himself. When a woman pulls back, the first assumption, especially from an insecure or unintegrated masculine psyche, is often that she is rejecting him. But this reaction is a reflection not of her intention, but of his internal conditioning. In reality, the act of pulling back is rarely about dismissal. It is more often a quiet assertion of strength, discernment, and inner clarity. It is an expression of boundaries, not bitterness, of value, not vanity. A woman who pulls back is not walking away in resentment, but standing firmly within herself, refusing to abandon her center in order to appease someone else's desire or timeline. This kind of retreat is not the same as detachment. It is not cruelty or indifference. It is a pause that says, I am not to be pursued without purpose. I am not here to be consumed but encountered. This is a rare form of power, the kind that is felt, not declared. It is the kind of power that emanates from self-knowledge. A woman who has done the inner work to know her worth will not seek validation through proximity. She will not barter her presence in exchange for attention or emotional comfort. She will withdraw when she senses imbalance, when she detects a lack of integrity, or when she recognizes that her energy is being taken for granted. Such a woman's strength lies in her ability to choose solitude over superficiality. Her ability to walk away, to be still, or to say no without needing to justify herself speaks volumes to the man who has only known women who bend out of fear of loss. She doesn't react impulsively. She responds from a place of knowing. She is not in resistance, but in alignment. Her pullback is not manipulation. It is a calibration, a way of re-establishing equilibrium within a dynamic that may be drifting toward dependency, haste, or emotional distortion. To the man who is attuned, this kind of woman becomes unforgettable. Not because she is elusive for the sake of allure, but because she is whole with or without him. Her ability to hold space without rushing into closeness communicates that her love is not given lightly. She is selective not out of superiority, but out of sacredness. She is not playing a role, she is protecting something real, and what she protects is not just her heart, but the depth of what connection means to her. She will not dilute herself to keep someone interested. She will not chase affection, nor will she perform emotion. She remains committed to truth, even if that truth requires distance. For a man, encountering such a woman can be disarming. It breaks the pattern. It challenges the part of him that is used to quick validation or passive acceptance. It forces him to reconsider what presence really means. Her pulling back creates a space where he must confront himself. Is he truly seeing her or merely projecting onto her? Is he engaging her spirit or just seeking comfort? Her withdrawal becomes a kind of mirror, reflecting his own emotional maturity or lack thereof. It invites him into growth, not through punishment, but through the absence of false connection. Furthermore, her retreat has timing. It is often precise, intuitive. She may sense when things are moving too fast, when the energy has become imbalanced, or when she is being misunderstood. Rather than push through, she steps back. This is not hesitation. It is wisdom. It is the ability to preserve the sacred by not forcing what is not yet ripe. In doing so, she models a way of being that values depth over drama, alignment over attachment. This inner posture does not demand explanation, though it may be misunderstood. And yet, the misunderstanding is part of its purpose. It separates those who are present in ego from those who are present in soul. It draws a line, not to exclude, but to clarify. Only the man who is willing to pause, to reflect, to rise into his own integrity will understand that her pulling back is not the end of intimacy, but the beginning of something more refined, more conscious, more real. There is something archetypal in the act of pursuit. Deep within the masculine psyche lies the instinct to move toward, to seek, to strive for what is not yet attained. This instinct is not merely about conquest or possession. It is about discovery, initiation, and the unfolding of inner purpose. When a woman pulls back, she unknowingly, or perhaps very knowingly, activates this ancient drive. She becomes the living symbol of something meaningful that cannot simply be acquired, but must be earned, understood, and honored through conscious effort. This is not about the ego's desire to win. It is not about the thrill of the chase in its shallow, modern interpretation. The pursuit that is awakened by a woman who pulls back is something deeper. It is the pursuit of depth itself, the pursuit of presence, of essence, of something that refuses to be reduced to transaction or routine. In her subtle withdrawal, she challenges the man to step into his fuller capacity. Not just to chase her, but to grow into someone capable of meeting her where she truly lives, in the realm of emotional, spiritual, and psychological depth. The woman who does not immediately yield teaches him patience. She reveals by her very stance that love cannot be rushed and connection cannot be forced. She becomes a test, not a test of gamesmanship, but of readiness. Is he ready to meet her in the places that matter? Is he prepared to show up not only with charm, but with depth, consistency, and truth? She becomes a call to maturity, precisely because she does not make herself overly available. Her absence, or partial distance, creates a space in which the man must bring more of himself forward. When everything comes too easily, its value is often lost. Convenience breeds complacency, and immediacy often leads to emotional detachment. But when something, or someone requires effort, reflection, and the willingness to move beyond superficial desire. Meaning begins to form. The woman who knows how to pull back allows the man to encounter not just her mystery, but his own. He must ask why he is drawn to her, why her distance affects him, why her silence echoes in his mind. These questions open the door to his inner life, to his unmet needs, unresolved wounds, and untapped capacity for intimacy. There is a sacred pressure in pursuit. It stretches the man beyond passivity. It asks for action, not just movement toward her, but movement within himself. It demands that he examine what he truly wants, what he fears, and whether he is seeking a partner or merely someone to fill a void. This internal stirring, this restlessness that emerges in the absence of easy access, is transformative. It can lead to frustration, but also to awakening. The woman becomes less a goal and more a guide, guiding him toward his own edges, his own longing, and ultimately toward a deeper understanding of what love really is. Many men confuse availability with affection and absence with rejection. But a deeper awareness reveals that space does not always mean disinterest. Sometimes it means respect for oneself, for the other, and for the slow unfolding of something real. The woman who is willing to be pursued, not in a game-playing sense but in a soulfully aware way, grants the man the rare opportunity to evolve through the act of reaching. He must bring intentionality to his actions, clarity to his desires, and humility to his ego. The pursuit becomes a mirror in which he can see himself more clearly, not the persona he projects, but the man he truly is when stripped of strategy and performance. In a world that often values speed over depth and availability over meaning, the woman who pulls back interrupts the pattern. She creates a rhythm that resists the algorithm of instant gratification. Her pause becomes a portal through which the masculine must pass if he is to encounter something lasting, something sacred, something beyond the surface of attraction. There is a subtle yet powerful difference between attachment and attraction. And few people understand where one ends and the other begins. Attachment is often born of fear, the fear of being alone, of being unloved, of being abandoned. It is fueled by insecurity and a need for reassurance. Attraction, on the other hand, arises from mystery, polarity, and presence. It is not about holding on, but about being drawn towards something meaningful, magnetic, and alive. When a woman pulls back, not in coldness, but in sovereignty, she disrupts the mechanism of attachment and creates space for genuine attraction to emerge. In many relationships, what is mistaken for love is often just habitual attachment, a dynamic where one person is always available, always accommodating, always there, can inadvertently breed emotional dependency rather than true intimacy. The man may begin to expect her presence, not cherish it. Her emotional availability, when constant and unguarded, can lose its vitality. When everything is predictable, the psyche stops responding. Familiarity dulls the edges of attraction, and what was once a magnetic pull becomes a flat routine of assumed presence. But when a woman pulls back, not out of punishment, but from a place of self-respect, she interrupts this automatic rhythm. Her absence, her silence, her unwillingness to be constantly accessible pierces through the fog of dependency. It forces a question: do I desire her because I truly see her, or because I'm addicted to her presence? This is a clarifying moment. In this space, the man is invited to discern whether his pull toward her is rooted in fear or fascination, in control or in reverence. This distance reignites tension, not the kind rooted in conflict, but in polarity. Polarity is the electric charge that exists between difference, masculine and feminine, presence and mystery, giver and receiver. When a woman knows how to create space, how to not collapse into the moment or the man, she becomes a living expression of that polarity. She holds her center. She doesn't need to over-explain her silence or fill the void with words. And it is in that void that true attraction reawakens. Men are not drawn to emotional certainty as much as they believe. They are drawn to energy that moves them, energy that challenges them to be present, aware, and attuned. The woman who does not immediately respond, who pauses before engaging, who chooses presence over pleasing, brings that energy into the dynamic. Her boundaries become invitations, not walls. She becomes a field of depth, not demand. Her restraint does not push the man away. It pulls something deeper out of him, a kind of awareness, respect, and attention that shallow dynamics never require. This shift from attachment to attraction is essential for any relationship that seeks to endure beyond the initial spark. Constant closeness can blur individuality. A relationship saturated with emotional overexposure can start to lose its erotic and energetic tension. When a woman instinctively or intentionally pulls back, she restores the separateness that fuels longing. She reminds the man that she is not an extension of him. She is not his emotional caretaker, nor his perpetual source of comfort. She is sovereign, and it is her sovereignty, not her dependency, that makes her irresistible. In this way, distance becomes a form of communication, one that speaks louder than reassurance. It says, "I am not here to be consumed. I am here to be met." It challenges the man to show up, not from a place of need, but from a place of intention. He must choose her, not as a fix for his loneliness, but as a partner he sees and values in her fullness. It is in these moments that a woman who pulls back becomes not a barrier, but a catalyst for a man's awakening. She calls forth his strength and his capacity for reverence, inviting him into a relationship that is not just about proximity, but about presence. In this way, the dance of polarity is ultimately a dance of respect for oneself and for the other. It requires honoring the sacredness of difference and the necessity of space. It asks both partners to embrace tension not as conflict but as creation, not as separation but as the pulse of attraction itself.